Recording.
Okay, so just to tidy things up for all the sort of Christmas races, I think there's a few bits and pieces to go through. We haven't touched on the bumpers yet, which I'm just going to talk about briefly. I think we may have a few that we picked out for the handicaps. There's actually some races to look forward to over the next couple of days, and we've got a few selections for you as well. So, just sort of kicking off the bumpers, guys. There are obviously three standout performances, all William Williams horses, shock horror. And I think, it's trying to figure out whether the horses that are able to compete to pass American Mike, because he's the one that's been there and done that this season. So we had three horses that, on my mind, are Facile Vega, Redemption Day, and Embassy Gardens. They for me, were the three big performances over Christmas. I was just looking at the Racing Post ratings, which I do have faith in for bumpers, tend to use them quite strongly for 2 mile hurdlers as well, as you know. Facile Vega got 126 Racing Post rating for his race, which is exactly the same as American Mike got on debut. American Mike pushed that out to 133 on his second run, but at the same stages, they are both bang on track with each other. Redemption Day got 122, which is the third best debut performance behind those two. Equal, incidentally, with Springwell Bay, which is a bit of a forgotten horse, I think. It's a horse that's with John Joe. Not really heard too much about that since then, having said that, but I think he is a bit of a forgotten horse. I know it's not one that ran over Christmas that, maybe should go into people's trackers for its next run. It's gone 122, 121. So it went a pound backwards second run. I thought it was a bit better than that on second run personally, but Springwell Bay, if it's not in your tracker, probably is one to have a look at. Embassy Gardens got 118. So there's £8 between the three of them. Different horses, I thought. Facile Vega, I thought was, that he looked to me more in that sort of Sir Gerard mould of last season, if I'm honest, of the three. Embassy Gardens, I thought that was a nice performance. He's probably one that you look ahead at and you say maybe he's more of your kind of Ballymore type horse for next season. I think of the three, he's the one that they may be tempted to hold back for Punchestown. Redemption Day is interesting because he looked a bit sharper. He did it very easily, I thought. He did it on the bridle, so there's probably more to come from that 118. Sorry, that 122. But three nice horses, and again, just to put them in a pecking order, Pink in the Park on her debut did a 115, which as a mare, that's the equivalent of 122. So she's alongside Redemption Day. Redemption Day is 8s, she's 12s. So that's just worth sort of making a note of. The other one that's in range with those is the Mediator at 121. So I would assume that he will be Gordon Elliott's second string. And I suppose the final one was the Big Doyen, who put up a 125 on his second run. He was 109, but his second run's in range too. So you've got 7 or 8 horses, I guess, that are on the right numbers to be contenders for the champion bumper. And it looks at this stage as though the better two are American Mike and Facile Vega. Did you guys have any views? I think, Kev, you backed Embassy Gardens, didn't you? Didn't you back him before the race and got a decent price, I think?
I backed 3. Willie won all 4 bumpers and I backed 3 of the 4 before they ran. I'd missed the price on Facile Vega. The most interesting thing for me was that before Embassy Gardens ran, Willie, after he'd got interviewed after having a winner earlier that day, said that Embassy Gardens was better than Facile Vega before that, or was thought of as better, which is what triggered me to start backing them. Now, Facile Vega did put in a higher performance, so obviously just because I've not backed, I wouldn't just rule rule out on that. But I think on the forum I did say I expect Embassy Gardens to be the better horse in the future, which I think you touched on. And that's just, I remember listening to someone, I can't remember who it was, but they just said like they don't really get that wrong when they expect one to go on to be well. It might have been Kevin Blake actually a while back on the Final Furlong podcast and stuff, but he was just saying they very rarely get it wrong when they think one is really good, and I think down the line he may end up the better horse, but I think Facile Vega was really good. But the one I also backed the Nice Guy, and I've cashed that one out now. He won quite nice. Well, no, he won. So money back, but Willie did say that he's going to go hurdling in the new year. So anyone that is on that, I've cashed out, and I'm okay with that. And he's bought the lowest performance of the four as well, so I think that's quite easy to do. But the one I liked the most was Redemption Day. I think he was impressive, and despite beforehand Embassy Gardens being the one, I think a lot of the time they do let them do the talking and sorting themselves out on the track. And how often do you hear Willie say, "Oh, he surprised us," or "He's better than we thought"? And he was even with Kilcrut last year. They weren't expecting a performance, and Ramillies was more well thought of. So I'm not getting myself sort of. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot with Embassy Gardens thinking that horse was better than Facile Vega beforehand, because on the track one of them's now outperformed the other. But the one that I was most impressed with was Redemption Day. And I think, that one's now the shortest of the three, isn't it? In the bumper?
No, Facile Vega is
Facile Vega is short.
It's very short.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's very short. They're all very short, aren't they?
Right.
3, 11 to 2 and 8 to 1. I did like Redemption Day, but again, to be honest, asking me about what I think about the bumper is not something. I take everything I get from the forum there. I've got a system. I'll back something before it runs if it's favourite, and I know I can cash out if it loses. And I'm in a nice spot with some of them, but I liked Redemption Day, but I'm not in a position where I'd tip anything up for the bumper. Like American Mike's fine. People are on because of the connections, because that's where we're at now. We know who's going to likely be the one. But I don't think he's been anything particularly so far, which none of them have, so we'll just see where they go next time, and they end up sorting themselves out. And even when they do sort themselves out, sort of you end up and you can have a fourth string from Mullins pick them up on the day and win at a big price. So I wouldn't rule any of them out. I think it's good that he's got a good crop, and as a usual place to start, Mullins and Elliott, you're not going to go far wrong. It also means if you do like one that isn't with them, you might get a nice price about it. I liked Redemption Day. Pink in the Park's interesting. You mentioned him before, but yeah, I've cashed out the Nice Guy. And it's just, do you two think America Mike has put up a performance that means he should be that short so far? Like that Racing Post rating, are you quite happy with that?
Personally, yeah. I think, he put in that 133. I think he was worthy of it. It puts him clear at the moment.
What was Envoy Allen?
Oh, good question. Can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's slightly more, I think, but not a lot more. Second run. They're in that kind of range. They're in the right range, definitely. The point you make about Redemption Day, I think, is a good one, because I think he's the one that looked as though he had the most improvement to come for being in a better race. That's the way I looked at his bumper. Facile Vega, I thought did it really well, and I think it probably was a better bumper that he won. So I think the ratings that were given are fair enough. I'm okay and comfortable with the numbers. It's just harder to pin the improvement on him. You can visibly see there is plenty more to come from Redemption Day. So I think taking that stance that you've taken, I think that's fair enough. Facile Vega is just a little bit more difficult to pin down, and their second runs and where their second runs, I think, will be interesting and partially revealing, because he's going to run out of options. If he wants to get a second run into them, it'll be the big job for the Dublin Racing Festival. I think it would be unlikely that he would want 2 or 3 of them running against each other. And I don't think he'd want what they think are their 2 best bumper horses meeting. They may be forced to do that if they really do believe they have to get 2 runs in and they just don't want to run in an ordinary bumper somewhere. But if they do split them, I think it'd be quite revealing because it'll tell you what they think about them and their respective chances. With Facile Vega, we know that they like Facile Vega because the noise were already out. The dogs have been barking about that one, hadn't they? I know there's more of a vested interest perhaps in talking him up because of the family connections to the horse, and it's a family bred horse. So you kind of understand that, but they're not one to just put it out there for the sake of it. They do rate it, and they do think it's nice, and they do think it's smart.
I think that's similar. They had like Kilcrut and Mount Leinster, though. Mount Leinster's the one that I'd be wary of there, because they talk Mount Leinster up as if he was a proper horse and wasn't. And I think they were pleasantly surprised with Kilcrut, and they've banged the drum. But I think what I've taken from that is the fact that he came out and said Embassy Gardens was better than, or they thought he was better before they ran. Now, they might have changed that since, and that is absolutely fair enough. Like, what they do on the track is more important. But I think if Facile Vega wasn't related to Quavega, then I'm not sure we'd be in this position. And I know it's popular on the forum. And like, one of the reasons I was against it is because I missed the price, and it's just down to probability of her having a horse anywhere near as good is so slim, which isn't really, it's not really based on any science, it's just guesswork, isn't it, or probability. So
that all those noises potentially make the price shorter than it should be, and I think that I think it's fair enough. But what he's done now is he's gone and done it on the racecourse.
Yeah, and I can't argue with that.
I would just one thing I would just touch on is it wasn't the only time that Mullins, I think he was asked several times through the kind of 4 days, and he definitely kind of grouped those 3 horses together. I know Embassy Gardens wasn't as style. I think Facile Vega and Redemption Days ran 2 quite kind of different races. Very, very impressive, both of them in different ways. Embassy Gardens was the least impressive, but I think after just the one run, I would still kind of take them as that group of 3. I didn't hear the comment you mentioned, Kev, but I think you still could take that on board. I think Embassy Gardens was quite raw still, very green. I'd not actually, but I would be tempted to. I think you can get 20s of cash out. I would still be half tempted to take that actually. Clearly he's well thought of, and Mullins before and after the races still had that kind of the bumper crop. He didn't kind of single them out, so he could be one that's a little under the radar, I think. Obviously less stylish, but
he looks like the one that'll benefit most from more time though. So I suspect they'll be patient with him. Whether that means he skips Cheltenham and he becomes the Punchestown horse, or whether it means he goes to Cheltenham, I would take it as a positive if he went to Cheltenham, because I think he would have shown them some more if he ends up at Cheltenham. I think that's the way they'd be thinking.
It probably depends, I guess, on how they fare. Mullins tends to. He'll chuck 1 or 2 in that are very good, won't he? And if he hasn't really got a big player in the race, that's when he kind of scatterguns, and that's when you can see 6 or 7 in the race.
No, absolutely. Look, I think we agreed that there were 3 nice horses, and it's nice to see, as we did with the entire Christmas festival. Actually, we saw a lot of good horses. It was as good a Christmas festival as I remember, if I'm really honest.
Overall,
that's what I take out. Individual performance. There were lots of. We can all pinpoint one. We probably pick one in particular. We probably pick the same one in particular. But there was so much quality. There was so many great races. There was so much competition in those races as well, which I think was good to see. and I've come off the back of all of it, thinking I probably saw the best Christmas race I've seen. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah, it was really good. Really, really enjoyed it. To be fair,
And
obviously we know your highlight. What else?
Well, what I was going to say was, it's probably worth having a pick through some of the handicaps. I don't know whether you guys have had any thoughts. There were any horses that you picked out that are worth considering for March? I picked a handful out. I must admit, it's probably just worth talking through those if you want me to.
Yeah, I mean the only one, the ones that like if I would have mentioned mine as I was going through ones that might end up in handicaps, like third not third time lucky, 3 Stripe Life potentially if I end up in a handicap, or I would have mentioned that there was nothing that I was watching thinking with an eye on the handicaps. I think there was enough going on, and I just love working out at the time. Well, can't wait for the pods on them. They'll be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, look, I mean, we'll start. The handicap entries will be out. Is it late January?
So Hills have put the markets up, haven't they?
Yeah,
today,
we're going to have to
figure out and
pick through those because it's going to be quite a lot of work, and we can't do that in one hit. But for me, that's a really exciting time. I love going through those handicaps. Any particular horses you guys sort of thought about? Any possible ones to put in the notebook? Any that we should be watching out for?
The per attempts didn't get. I mean, I backed the 3 Mullins horses in the per attempts and Magic Day. Is it Magic Days? Magic Days? No.
Maze
Runner. Magic Days. Maze Runner. Maze Runner got absolutely smashed up, and then flopped.
Who was the
disappointed with?
Who was the Elliot runner? Ran on in 6th. Made headway.
Dunboyne. There were three horses for me to take out of that attempts qualify. The winner actually Panda Boy. He's got 1:36, so he's got a mark to get. And I thought he actually ran a really nice race. And often the winner gets overlooked in that race because it's not normally the winner that goes on to win the attempts. But I actually thought he was useful. Dunboyne clearly ran the right kind of race in inverted commas. And you go back and look at him. He's got novice hurdle form behind Bob Ollinger and Capodanno. So it felt to me as though they might have been looking after his mark from a way back. I think they had this season in mind in his novice hurdle season. So I'm very interested in Dunboyne, and he got the absolute ride you would want to see a per attempts final horse get in its qualifier, and it gives Gordon Elliott a bit of room for movement as well because he's got 128, so he's off 128. Handicap hasn't touched him, and he gets UK tax. There's a fair chance that the UK handicap is going to be a little heavy-handed, but it also allows them to, if they need to, go and run somewhere and get a £5 penalty because he's going to be in that range, isn't he? He's going to be borderline. If the UK handicapper gives him £7, he'll get in. If it gives him £5, he probably won't. And then, what they'll do is they'll go and run somewhere and get the £5 penalty because clearly there's more in his mark than what we've got at the moment. I think he could be extremely well handicapped. But I also think he's possibly not the horse that's the best handicapped out of that Pertemps qualifier. I think Winter Fog probably is. He was the one a few of us were looking forward to running the Greatwood. They resisted the temptation. They've held back for this, so they clearly saw him as more of a staying hurdler than a 2-mile hurdler. He's got 131. He's going to get some bit of tax from the UK handicapper, so he's likely to get in off that 131 or certainly be on that borderline. But we also know Emmett Mullins' modus operandi now because we saw it last season, didn't we? The chances are he's going to go now to that more battle hurdle at Kelso, get the £5 penalty for the 60k bonus that he then wins if he goes and wins the Pertemps. So I would be really interested. I backed him at 33 before the race, and I went in twice more afterwards at 16-1. So I am very interested in him. He probably actually would have won the race. He made a mistake at a crucial time of the race as they were turning for home. So he may well have won the race, but he wouldn't have been fully tuned up. It would have been true Emmett Mullins style. That there will be lots more in his handicap mark. And again, he was bought from I can't remember Dennis Quinn, is it? David Quinn. So that was the first run. Sorry, mate.
Nothing.
So that was his first run for Emmett Mullins. Same connections as last season with the shunter. It's again almost certainly part of a plan. He beat Captain Kangaroo in his novice hurdle season. It was one piece of form amongst lots of worse than average runners, shall we say. So he's got ability. It was just he's only going to show it when they choose to show it. So Winter Fog is a must bet for me. There's a few more over the days. We touched on Broomfield Berg. On the same day, Marie's Rock ran in a 2 mile hurdle, handicap hurdle. She only wants 2 miles. The pennies dropped with her finally. She's only rated 131, and she was talked about as a possible champion hurdle horse last season. They know how much, given how much ability she's got, I suspect they might just look after her handicap mark for the county hurdle, which is why it made me think that they may, if they do go down the handicap route with Broomfield Berg, they may go to the Coral Cup or even to the Martin Pipe. He's got 134. So, they've got some choices and options with him. But, Marie's Rocks, for me, is one to stick in the notebook.
She's ground dependent, isn't she? Or that's what they've always said. Wants good ground? Or was she was she the opposite?
No,
she was talked about in the same season, Epitan.
She would want better ground. She would want better ground.
Yeah, okay.
But I think she's getting older. She looks as though she might be a bit more versatile, but with the handicap mark, her handicap mark just jumps out. It really does. Couple to take from the 3-year-old hurdle at Limerick. One that I think is probably in most people's notebook anyway. Champion Green. He went into most people's notebooks the previous race when he was 4th, and it didn't look like they were trying at all. I think he ran the race that they wanted to run this time. He could have won it. Made a little mistake that stopped him winning it because they put him in the right 3-year-old hurdle because they know that the handicap is not going to batter him. If he'd run in the Icaray Allen hurdle, the handicapper would probably have had some say. So they are definitely looking to manipulate his mark up. The jury was out for me. I just wanted to see his second run. I'm certain now he's Boodles bound. He's in the Band of Outlaws mould. I'm sure of it now. And Joseph O'Brien's been there and done that. There was another one to take from that race, which was a Gordon Elliott horse in Britska. Sorry, it wasn't in that race. Britska ran in the Phil Dorr Lunar Power race. He was 3rd in that race. He was held up and ran on, in typical style of a horse that you don't want to do too much damage to, but, want to hide ability in plain sight. So I think Britska for Gordon Elliott's quite interesting, in the same colours as what was the horse that won the beat Adagio at Cheltenham last season? Dufflecoat. So same owners and connections as Dufflecoat. So they were the juveniles that sort of caught my eye. Novice chasing Gabby Narco behind Master McShee. He was beaten 28 lengths by Master McShee in the Faheen novice chase at Limerick, which has been a good trial in the past, but I don't think it was necessarily up to scratch this year. But Gabby Narco caught my eye, the way he was beaten. He had previously beaten Fury Road and was touched up by Noble Yates and Beacon Edge. Well, we're talking about Fury Road as being a genuine place contender in the RSA or Brand of I'll never get used to it. And we're talking about Beacon Edge potentially being end up second favourites in the Turners. So Gabby Narco somewhere around those in terms of ability. But then he goes and runs in this race, beating 28 lengths, and that just felt like a run for the handicapper. So I'll be really interested to see what mark he's given. So I'm not necessarily putting him up for anything at the moment. But if he ends up with a mark in the an Irish mid to high 140s, I'd probably be all over him for the plate once he was in the market. So I think he's interesting. Gentleman de Me finished second behind Autumn Couleur. Needs one more run for a mark. I think he could end up with a mark in the high 130s, which would make him very interesting for the Grand Annual. I think he's one to put in the notebook, and I think there might be a bit of a feeling with him because he was favourite for the Martin Pipe last year, wasn't he? I think they may want to go back and have another go at winning something at the festival. So I think he's interesting. Back in trip. Fleur was third behind Galopin de Champ. So again, I'll be watching out for the kind of mark that he gets. I think he will be a festival handicap horse for Gordon Elliott. Whatever mark he gets will probably decide whether he's a Kim Muir or an Ultima horse. So they were the ones that I picked out. I think there are a few to look at, a few to put in the notebook, maybe one or two that might be back. I need to go and check the markets. I'm not keen on when there's only one market. I think Hills might have one or two of them quoted. But I'd rather wait now until we get no run and no bet to even think about backing them. But they're all notebook horses for me. Horses to look out for over the next couple of days. Tomorrow we've got Vauban running at Punchestown. Him and Icare Allen are starting to look like the two Mullins horses for the Triumph. We obviously need to see how he performs tomorrow. I think a lot of people will be waiting to see how St. Felician gets on at Punchestown. There's been talk about him being a horse that's potentially good enough for a champion hurdle, but are they going to show his ability? Are they going to be handicapping him? I think there's been talk about him being a county hurdle horse, for example. So he's one to watch tomorrow and probably the next race. New Year's Day, we've got Habrisco starting out at 2.5 miles at Fairyhouse. I think that's interesting in itself because I think a lot of people thought he was possibly one of Willie's Supreme horses, but if Willie starts him out at 2.5 miles, he's not coming back for a Supreme. He's either not good enough or he's Ballymore horse or even potentially a Bartlett horse. Allegorie de Vassy, we touched on briefly, I think. She's out at Fairyhouse making her debut. She was talked up when she was bought. We did talk about her because I think Scooby had mentioned him to you, Kev. So she's clearly a horse that's very highly thought of. So I'll be watching her on New Year's Day through foggy eyes, no doubt. We've got same card. We've got Ellie Mae versus Mount Ida versus Put the Kettle On at Fairyhouse.
I can't believe that. That's a proper race, isn't it?
Isn't it just?
In terms of mares chases, yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah. In terms of mares chases, you'd be happy if that was the mares chase at the festival, wouldn't you? So,
well, to be fair, and I'll have to say, like, the thought of the reigning champion chaser not running the champion chase is ludicrous. Yeah, I understand it might happen, but I couldn't be more against it if I don't care what our best chance is. I'm not interested. If you're the champion chaser, you should be running the champion chase.
Yeah, agreed.
But I do think she has a much better chance of winning the mare's chase, and I think the up in trip suits her, the lower grade suits her, and she'll win it. If she beats Ellie Mae, then she becomes an absolute banker. And
she does.
I won't know what to do.
It's a bit of a red flag for me, though. I'm not keen. Yeah, I don't. She's a champion chaser. The fact
if she goes to Fairyhouse, she cannot be showing them what she's shown them previously. Otherwise, they'd be going to the champion chase. All your instincts as an owner, as a trainer, when you've got the current champion chaser, will be to go and defend your title. And they put her in here, and they put her in here because they want to see where she's at.
Well,
no reason, is there? And if she can't beat the girls, then she's not going to win a champion chase. And if she can't beat the girls, she's not even going to win a mare's chase. So it's a weird decision for me, because if she wins this, what do you do?
Well, she was beaten by Nubaneka and Politolog, wasn't she, in the Schlur, which might be the reason that the campaign is so boldly, because she would have, I think we can say, she would have been very close to winning the Close Brothers novice handicap chase on the first day when she won the Arkle. I think I don't know that, but given the way she's run into things, she would have won that handicap over 2.5. I think her staying the trip isn't an issue at all, and they were rewarded for being so bold with her. They've won the Arkle, they've won the Champion Chase, and given Connections have done that, they've also sent her over for a Schlur chase. Given they've done all that, to now see her rocking up 2.5 against mares makes me think they've decided, and I suppose it is a bit like John has said, it's a bit of a red herring that maybe she's not as good as she was, and that would put me off. But like I mentioned it to, because I didn't know she was running, I saw it today and messaged you. I was like, wow, I just did not see that coming.
No.
So I feel like I have to back her before she runs, because she's the best horse. She's a better horse than Ellie May. Like, and the up in trip suits her more. And like Ellie May would have been the horse I like the most for the mare's chase ahead of Conchitista, despite her being shorter and winning. She's the one that I have as the one I want to be on, and I feel like whoever wins the race between those two is favourite for the mare's chase and absolutely rock solid for it. I'm not, like, if Conchitista was in that race, I'd expect her to be beat.
Look, they may be chasing the ground. I think isn't the ground yielding at Fairy House? So I don't know what rain's forecast. She clearly acts on softer, but she's better on better ground. There's no doubt about that. I think they'll be kicking themselves that they didn't run in the 2-mile chase at Christmas, given Shacken didn't turn up, because that would have been a bit of a penalty kick for her. But the reason it feels like a strange decision for me is it feels like a lose-lose, because she doesn't win that race. She's clearly not good enough to win a champion chase, but she's also not good enough to win a mare's chase. If she wins that race, what decision do you make? What decision do you make? I've beaten the mare, so I can go and beat them again. And I still don't know whether I'm good enough to go and beat Shishkin and Urge Me, which was out in the first place. It just feels like such a weird decision.
Yeah,
I think the decision's made. I know they've said they'll take. They said they'll go into a mare's race around this. They obviously had this race in mind for a long time after the Schlur chase. I think the decision is made. Like you said, this race isn't going to. I know it looks a good race for a mare's chase, but it isn't going to tell them anything for the champion chase.
Well, you go back 2 seasons. When she won her Arkle, I know it was a late decision to go for that race rather than the 2.5-mile novice handicap chase, whatever it was called, the race that they scrapped after that season. And the word was, the sports owners, we're going to give it a crack, and they gave it a crack, and she won her Arkle. She won her Arkle. She therefore deserved to go for the champion chase. And everybody doubted her, Nobody thought she was going to be good enough, and she won her champion chase.
Lobos did.
Yeah. So it feels alien to the thinking. Do you know what I mean? It feels really alien to the thinking. To then say, we now have the champion chaser. It will feel so logical after those thought processes to go and defend your title. Whatever's going to happen, because they must have had the same doubts last season, the same doubts the season before. To rip that up and then say, we're just going to go for the mare's chase. And I know the mare's chase is a big deal. Winning the Grade 2 at the festival is a big deal. All 3 of us would die for that opportunity to have a horse that was even remotely good enough. Well, they've got the champion chaser, for God's sake. It feels odd. It feels off. The whole thing feels off to me.
I couldn't touch her before she runs. I mean, Bet365 are quite hot on cash out. even like if she ran poorly, which I wouldn't say is that within. I think I could see that happening because just why she's here.
But what do you, Jono, what do you do if she goes and wins by?
I don't know what to do.
5
I
lengths?
backed her today.
What do you do? What do
Yeah.
you do? What's the target? If she wins by 5 lengths tomorrow, what's the target in March?
Oh, if she wins, she goes Mayor's Chase. For me, the only reason she goes back to Champion Chase now is if the race cuts up. If just say Shishkin had a setback, Energamine, or if the race then looked quite poor, I mean the Arkle that I know probably the step up seemed quite big at the time, but the Arkle was it was there for the taking, wasn't it? I know it was a shock her winning it, but it was a poor Arkle. The Champion Chase isn't.
It is bar Shishkin.
Huh?
If Shishkin didn't run, she'll run in the Champion Chase because she's got an Ergamine to beat, and then she's clear second favourite. She should be third favourite now. She's better than Grenadine.
Exactly, which then goes back to the point of why
no, she wasn't. Yeah.
she was third or fourth favourite last year, though, wasn't she? So,
yeah.
They're in the same position. So something is different with her. That's the point I'm making. Really. I'm probably going about it the wrong way.
I think because I messaged you today, didn't I, Paul? Just with that and I backed her, and now I'm thinking of cashing it out because like you say, it's lose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even if she wins, she does go favourite for the race, maybe 3-1. And even then, I won't know if she's definitely running out.
But the challenge here is you and I both make books, so you kind of have to have her for your book. Because if she wins, race over really, isn't it? And you haven't got her.
Yeah.
So, and you've got all of the other bets, so you have to have her. And if she gets turned over, you have to write off the fact that she gets beaten, they take cash out away. You have to write whatever that bet is. You have to be prepared to write it off because that's better than her winning. Than her. Sorry, it's better than her not winning. Sorry, which way around am I talking? It's better than her.
I don't know now because she's only 7-1 now. What price? If she beats Ellie May, you got to think Ellie May's 7-1 as well. And they've already sort of decided Conchatista's better, which I know we disagree with, but because they've made that decision,
I think the bookies will straight off the back of that though. I think Conchatista will get pushed out to 4-1.
But even if she doesn't, so what price does she get? I think I might rather back her if she beats Ellie May at 3-1 to win than I would have her at 7-1 now each way.
Yeah,
I think.
Maybe.
I would 100% do that. For me, like I said, I think if she wins, I don't think that's suddenly going to get them into the. I mean, she'd have to win this by about 15 lengths for them to realistically go to the Champion Chase off the back of this, surely. So
she's here because she's not shown them what she's shown them before. There can't be any other reason, can there? And therefore, it has to raise a doubt about this race itself because this is not a bad race.
Or have they just decided Shishkin's the best horse, that they can't beat her? They've already done it, and this race suits her more now she's older. And she absolutely bolts up, and she's an absolute banker that I've got in at 7-1. I'm absolutely flummoxed.
They obviously think she needs 2.5 miles now, otherwise they wouldn't be doing this, would they?
No.
So
she's always looked like she needs that, hasn't she?
Yeah, exactly. But maybe she's slower at home now. Do you know what I mean? She's showing something different for them to make this decision. And to be fair, we're talking about Henry de Bromhead, and he knows the time of day. You'd trust his judgment, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and he's bold as well. I like that. I like that you can trust him to be bold.
Yeah, absolutely. I just instinctively, if she were mine, it wouldn't matter what she was showing at home. She's the current champion. I'd be taken into the champion chase.
I agree. I think you should be
trainer's telling me, I'm not refusing to do that, then I'll be taken to a trainer that would.
Yeah.
If Connection's listening, I'd genuinely be doing that.
I think the champion chaser has to run in the champion chase. But
absolutely.
But she's not.
No. Okay. Jungle Boogie comes out for a beginner's chase, 2.5 miles. The lesser spotted Jungle Boogie. Don't know. Even if he goes and wins that well, I'd really struggle with him for the turners because he's got so little experience. He's got age on his side, I suppose. He's a 7-year-old rising 8, isn't he? But he's only had 2 bumpers. They skipped hurdles with him, and he's having his beginner's chase tomorrow on New Year's Day on his 8th birthday. I don't know what he'd have to show something pretty special, I think. But I'm looking forward to seeing him because they've always held him in high regard. Iron Maximus is running over 2.5 at HQ on New Year's Day, so they're stepping him up. So they're happy with John Bon and Constitution Hill now, and the flip side is, I think they probably believe he wants 2.5. I did wonder. I don't know whether you guys noticed that he's only had 2 runs over hurdles, and Nicky Henderson has clearly asked the handicapper for a handicap mark. And I probably should have made a mental note of exactly what that was, but it's low it might be 128 or 131. If you can check for me, John, that'd be quite
so
useful.
I think it's 128. It's very low given the kind of potential and how they were talking about him.
Yeah,
They don't handicap on potential. Handicap on what he's done.
It's
Crap all.
2 races. You can request. Normally, the handicap will only will handicap on 3 races, unless he's requested to. He can refuse to, but if he believes he has sufficient information to handicap a horse, he'll do it by request. Which is Henson asked for his handicap mark. He did the same for John Bon, by the way. He asked for both of them. John Bon, I'm making the assumption because they wanted to see what his mark would be for Newbury. The handicap hurdle at Newbury. But Iron Maximus is interesting because he's asked for a mark for him too. And Henderson has sent inexperienced horses, unexposed horses to handicap hurdles at the festival before and done it successfully. So it has made me wonder whether there's a bit of a plan hatch in there to take him to the Coral Cup. So I'm putting that out there as something to watch out for and think about. Clearly, there's no market for that at the moment, but just put it on the radar to have a think about. There's a nice novice chase at Cheltenham as well. Glancing Queen comes out, and so does L'Homme Press, Venetia Williams, which is relatively short for the turners. I think it's 16-1 for the turners. So I'm really interested in seeing how that horse runs on New Year's Day. It comes with a good reputation. So we'll see. Glancing Queen I actually like as a horse. I think she is interesting in the mare's chasing. We've just talked about some really nice horses meeting there, but I think she's been screaming out for 2.5 miles. Connections were tempted to run her in the mare's hurdle rather than the mare's novices hurdle last season because she wants 2.5 miles, but she ran a decent enough race over 2 miles, to be fair, in a race that she was never going to win because it was all going to happen a bit too quick for her. But I'm quite interested to see what happens with her. With a mare's allowance, actually, she potentially wouldn't be out of place in something like the Turners either. But I think she can be competitive in the mare's chase itself. So I think one to watch, take a call afterwards. And then we've got the Royal Keel. And often a horse that wins the Royal Keel or goes close to the Royal Keel is a place horse in the Stayers Hurdle. So the horses that specifically are interested for that would be Ruin Up a Storm and Guard Your Dreams. They'd be the only 2 that probably would be really not going to win because there's 2 horses that are much better than them. But maybe in the range for a place, they'd be the only 2 that I'd be looking at for that. And the other interesting thing in that race is you get Indefatigable against Stormy Island. They're both declared. So we get an England-Ireland line there between those 2. So that for me was just quite an interesting one to watch out for. So they're the sort of highlights coming up over the next couple of days to watch out for, and maybe how we should be thinking about them moving forward. So the only thing really left for me, unless you have anything to add to that, guys.
No. Pissed horse. Mention that.
You've just got to back that now, haven't you? You can't
Kind
not.
of back the pissed horse. No, but nothing. I haven't really gone through, to be honest, yet with New Year's Day. I was glad today of the break where there was only there's no real Cheltenham horses today. It's been good the last
No,
4 days, but no,
absolutely.
I'll have a little look tomorrow for New Year's Day and Sunday. But no, that's a good roundup, I think.
I haven't got too much on the basis that we said we'd keep this
To 1 hour.
short, and we've now been here for 3.5 hours. I thought, no, I won't go into too much because I don't want to waffle on.
All right, so any recommended bets, guys?
Any that I put up in the first two. Eric Bloodaxe.
Yep.
I backed myself. I like that. And the Albert Bartlett. I am tempted by Ginto in the Ballymore, to be honest.
You like that form, don't you? So I guess
I do.
Kind of back them both, I would say.
I think when I put up Ginto at 25 for the Bartlett, it was with the plan that they'll both go to the Lawlers of Naas and they'll sort themselves out. And I think with that being the case, I would have to, and I'm on the verge of doing it, but I'm talking myself into it. I think I have to back Ginto for the Ballymore because I think he's better than sort of most people are giving credit for. I think people made their minds up Hollow Games was the best of the two, and I suppose what I might do is wait to see what price they open up and what the jockey bookings are, and that might sway me to not do it. So I think if Ginto's declared tomorrow, then I'll have a proper look at that. I'll put it up on the forum, I suppose, if I do, because there's a lot of permutations and ways around I haven't really worked out. And I essentially either of them winning and looking like Albert Bartlett horses is still the ideal, but I do think there's a massive gap for a horse to jump into the Ballymore because the front few in the market at the moment either aren't running or aren't good enough.
Yeah.
So maybe Ginto, essentially Hollow Games potentially as well, in theory, could also be a bet. I'll probably put it up tomorrow if I do it, and then I suppose, yeah, just those two. I mean, you couldn't have anything else.
I think you're right about Ginto, by the way. I think people made their mind up when he was turned over in that bumper because they paid, was it 350,000 for him or whatever it was, and then he was turned over by what do you want, who's turned out to be a decent horse himself, of course, but people just thought they spent that money. He was talked right up. Jamie Codd's on board. Always lost. It was a sure thing. And he didn't run a particularly good race. It wasn't.
No, I remember backing him that day. I did back him that day.
He put it right next time. He won quite comfortably in his second bumper, as I recall. I think they were both on heavy ground, so I don't think that necessarily helped him. He's looked a better horse on better ground, I have to say. It could be the hurdles, it could be the better ground. I don't know which it is. But both his novice hurdles, I think he's looked really good, and he looked particularly good against Eric Bloodaxe. Eric Bloodaxe, as you quite rightly say, has come out and won since. Backable himself as far as the Albert Bartlett is concerned, and I did the same, by the way. I actually added Eric Bloodaxe to my books. He's run quite a lot of experience, which is what you quite like for that race. But I think my take is I probably had the same prejudice against Ginto. And I don't often do that. I think he's a much better horse than I've given him credit for. And I think he's a proper player. I think he probably, if they were mine, I would be splitting them Ginto to the Ballymore and Hollow Games to the Bartlett, based on what I've seen in terms of the way they run, race, etc. The fact that they're entering the two of them in the same races, and there's no particular noise one way or the other suggests that they don't know themselves.
Yeah,
they're trying to find a way of figuring it out. So
yeah, and that's, to be fair, that
in terms of ability.
When I put him up on for the Bartlett when he was 25, that was exactly it. I was like, I don't think they know yet. I'm not sure they'll even. To be fair, at the time, I didn't think they'd both be graded. horses by the time we get there, and I suppose that might. I still won't be put off one of them for a handicap potentially when we get there, but yeah, I think, I love letting them do the talking on the race course is the way to do it as well. I think that's brilliant. So yeah. So I think I will put up. I think Jin, like I think he's 16s with 365. I think that's about on declaration tomorrow, depending on who's jocked up, because it might be a case of just backing him on the day and seeing where you're at. So yeah, I'm thinking of that, and then Eric Bloodaxe, and I think they'd be the two that'd be most. And then I do like Allegory de Vassi. I would back at 25-1 before she runs tomorrow. I know when doing ones that have run, but if anyone who's still able to get on with 365, that's just absolutely easy. Back that, see where she's at. She might even be short before she runs if it catches on. It's the same with like Vauban. I mean, he's done nothing. He was 25-1. He's now 16-1. And what's happened today? Just nothing. And he's just been backed because people are looking today. So I'd have a look at Allegory de Vassi and maybe get her on side as quick as possible.
Yeah, I think they're all good shouts, good recommendations. John, have you got any thoughts?
Nothing stand out, to be honest, from me this week. I'd back the mare, the Mullins mare, just mentioned, definitely. I think cash out is no brainer.
Yeah, I'd agree. For me, ones I think people should have on side: Beacon Edge, 20-1 each way, or 16-1 with cash out for the Turners. He logically slots into that race now, and he would be second favourite. So price is wrong. Once the decision's made, I think he's probably 5-1, 6-1, that kind of price. Behind.
Would you give him any chance against Bob Ollinger? Do you think, on what you've seen so far?
Look, I think he's a decent horse in his own right. Based on Bob Ollinger's debut, he jumped okay, but he wasn't exactly electric, was he? But he ran a nice race. When you get these small field, races, we saw it last year, didn't we? We had an absolute nailed on certainty last year. And what happened? Didn't jump well, fell. So I'm not suggesting for 1 second that's what's going to happen with Bob Ollinger. He's a worthy favourite. His price is what it should be, to be quite honest, based on what we know and what we've seen. But you need the alternative with those kind of horses, and I think Beacon Edge is a really solid alternative. He's a good horse in his own right. We've seen how good he is over hurdles. He does, if he's able to hit that kind of rate, his hurdles rating over fences as a novice, he's going close, isn't he? So I think he has to be backed as the alternative. Champion Green, I mentioned, he's 14-1 with, I think it's Hills that have the market for the Boodles. Just no brainer. Get him in your book. He's not one to wait for no run and no bat. He's going to the Boodles. Winterfog I've mentioned already, backed him before the race at 33s. I've backed him twice since at 16s. I like him a hell of a lot for the Pertemps. For a book, I'd be adding Dunboyne as well. I have at 20-1. So both of those two, given the trends of that qualifier as well, you just have to back the pair of them, I think. And I was going to put the kettle on at 8-1 for the mares chase before the race at Fairy House. But you've put the question mark in my head, so I'm not going to recommend put the kettle on. I need to have a think about her a little bit more. So the four that I'm recommending are Beacon Edge, Champion Green, Winterfog, and Dunboyne.
I think I will add Manila Indo at 10-1 after our chat earlier about that. I think how giddy everyone is about Aplutard and Galvin when the Gold Cup winner's 10-1. How often do you get a Gold Cup winner, an Albert Bartlett and Gold Cup winner, and a placed horse in an RSA 10-1?
Yeah,
I would take that. If I was starting now, I think that's the bet I would have, even over Albin Photo at what's now 16s. I think Manila Indo is a bet at 10-1.
Yeah,
I think definitely shorter on the day. You're on an actual reigning Gold Cup winner. I'd have that when there's question marks over the first and second, because you could, if you rule out one of them now, you can rule out both. So
look, I think there's a few people expect him to be beating the King George, and they were waiting for his price to be pushed out.
yeah,
there's a point still. I think people who have been happy, but he's pushed out to 10-1. And I agree, it's too big. I think most of the others have clipped him into 7s and 8s already, haven't they? From memory. So I think 365, I think, are alone at 10-1. But it's a standout price with those guys, and they're the cash out mob. So
the other bookies need to step their game up, don't they? Because we're going to end up sponsored by 365 at this rate. Easily the best bookmaker. Cash out, best prices. Come on, 365, come at me. Kevin at fatjockey.com. Send me an email.
Be nice if they're actually watching. Wouldn't
it? What I love is you've just given the trolls your email address.
Oh shit! It's contact at fatjockey.
Admin at.
Yeah, they can have it. They go straight to junk. No drama.
Look, I don't think it's not a poll type week this week, is it? What we could do is just a general thread. I think maybe everybody putting up what they think is their best winner of the Christmas festival.
Well, what we could put up is Galopin de Champ going to be better than Courto Star, because that's what you've said.
Or who would you own, Shishkin or Galopin de Champ?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Definitely Shishkin.
And it's going to have to be a surprise in terms of what the podcast is next week, because we've been so busy doing the work for this one.
It's my birthday next week, guys. What have you got me?
Oh.
How old do you reckon I'm going to be? Do you know, Jono, if you do, shut up?
Immediately when you said that, I just thought this podcast after this week is going to be so much shorter.
Yeah, I'm not going to be on it. Poll. We can do a poll. How old do you think I am?
Oh, jeez. Oh, it's horrible. Right, I think we've taken up enough of everybody's time, and now they've listened to this 3 hours of podcast just to see you do that. My God, and they went all the way through to the end.
Absolutely beautiful. Lucky people. Right, what is going on here? People will be
stopping 5 minutes from the end in future, just in case.
Gonna have to edit it because I moved the thing to end it off the edge of my screen, and now I can't get it up. Oh no. What's going on? Leave studio. Let's go for that. Right. Thanks very much, everyone.
Cheers, guys. See everybody next week.
Cheers, guys.
See ya. Bye-bye. Oh, he literally is going. He's just going. We're still live, Kev, and you've gone. No idea how to stop it.
No.
I think the best way is just to go. Cheers, guys.
That's the kind of host we've got, guys. See you later.
Bye-bye.